doesn't matter whether you are a corporate that is competing with another corporate. Everybody reaches a new level of efficiency when participating.
The idea is actually that people start collaborating on a blockchain.
Welcome everyone to the last session of the Blockchain in Use conference. Today in Factory Berlin, in a hybrid session with a couple of people here on site and quite a few people joining us on the live stream. My name is Sylvain and I'm the president and founder of Bearchain. Bearchain, for those of you who may not know it, is a non-profit member-led organization here in Berlin, promoting blockchain, educating people around blockchain, and that's exactly what we do today here at the Blockchain in Use conference. Together with Berlin Partner for Business and Technology, we are here today to talk about the blockchain use cases in public administration. This whole week we've been hosting sessions. On Monday we've been looking at financial services, the use cases for blockchain in financial services, topics like DeFi. On Tuesday we had the topic of IoT and security, looking at how Internet of Things actually makes use of blockchain potential. We had mobility on Wednesday, and yesterday we closed off the series of purely online ones with supply chain, where we had a long discussion with some experts in the supply chain space. As I said, today we are here to present around the topic and talk around the topic of how blockchain can aid topics in public administration. Now, I'm not doing this alone. Actually, I'm very happy that I have the moderator here for today, and like to introduce you to Sasha from Berlin Partner. Sasha, it's your stage. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming here today. To all the online participants, thank you for joining in. It is a special event today, and my name is Sascha Dobratz. I'm a project manager at Berlin Partner, and I'm very happy to guide you through today's event. Yeah. We have some interesting guests today. We have some very nice presentations and hopefully an inspired panel discussion in the end of the event. So let's get started and first of all have a look at today's agenda. Ah, that's not the correct presentation. Oh. That's not the correct presentation. So, yeah, some trouble here. Just a second, please. Could you please turn on the presentation? Perfect, thank you. So let's have a look at today's agenda. First of all, for the introduction keynote, I'm very happy to welcome Permanent Secretary Christian Rickerts of the Senate Department for Economics, Energy and Public Enterprises. It's a great honor that you're here today. Thank you. Under your leadership, the Senate developed a digitization strategy of Berlin. And also in 2019, you supported the public administration of Berlin in a workshop in order to find blockchain use cases for the public administration. So I'm really looking forward to your introduction keynote. After that, we will directly jump into the 3 use cases. The first one will be presented by Matti. He is an innovation manager at ITDZ. And you will show us the first successful steps of blockchain in the public administration of Berlin. After that, I'm very happy to welcome Andreas Dittrich, not only because he's a former colleague, but also because he is the head of the Blockchain Solution Center at T-Systems. And they already had a big blockchain project in the area of public administration. And I'm very happy to welcome you today. After that, the third use case will be presented by Andreas Hartl. He is head of the division AI1, which includes artificial intelligence, data economy, and blockchain. And I'm very happy that you're here today because I think politics is a very important factor when we talk about innovative technologies. After that, we will go into the panel discussion together with the three speakers. Today's topic is how can the capital of blockchain capitalize on blockchain? But of course, we also want to talk about the three use cases and about public administration and blockchain in general. After the panel discussion, we will see Ricardo Garcia and my colleague Amira Gutmann-Trieb. They will make a quick closing statement of this week. And I'm sure if everything goes as planned, we will be finished by 6 p.m. Yeah, Berlin is not only the capital of blockchain in Europe, but it also provides a great environment for businesses, incubators, academic institutions, and startups. As an economic development agency, we keep in touch with all these players, supporting networks, initiating joint projects, and actively marketing the advantages of Berlin. So on this slide here, you can see the four main areas of Berlin Partner. The first one is settlement of companies. Of course, we want to attract new companies to settle in Berlin. The second one is the account management. We already support more than 1,600 partners. Third one, marketing in order to promote the existing campaigns. And finally, the technology transfer, which is very important, especially when we talk about innovative technologies, because it is very important that we use the knowledge already gained in other projects in order to accelerate the innovation process. We also support the Start Alliance, which is an international partnership of cities to support startups in their expansion. So if you have a business in Berlin or planning to start your own business in Berlin, we are probably your first contact. Yeah, that being said, I want to hand over to Permanent Secretary Christian Rickerts. Thank you again for being here, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to have the opportunity to talk on today's event in the public administration track. It's actually great that Berlin Partner and Birdchain managed to organize today's conference. It's we all know we are currently in troubled times, so it's a very special conference. It's a special event, and I'm still getting used to just mainly talk into video cameras, yeah, that's our time, and we can talk about blockchain. And it's great that I can point out, you already mentioned that Berlin is actually the blockchain capital of Germany, or Europe. I don't know. I can't compare it to the rest of Europe, but it is for sure the capital of blockchain in Germany. We have currently over 130 blockchain players in our city. It's actually a large number of startups. We have around 110 startups in this area, but of course as well established companies, accelerators, research institutions, investors, and this makes Berlin actually a landmark of blockchain, most active and distinctive blockchain ecosystem maybe in the world. Yeah, it's great for doing blockchain here in Berlin. And we know all that the public sector is a potentially large field of application for the blockchain technology. a lot has been happening in the public sector during the past 2 or 3 years. I don't know if you all share this, but it's my impression that many things went further. First of all, the technology has made it into the political debate. It has been in the political debate for a while, but it's not a just theoretical discussion anymore. There's an intensive work on very concrete, specific application scenarios, use cases, and we all know the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I have a feeling that the public sector becomes more and more aware that blockchain technology not only enables new economic business models, but can also optimize existing structure and processes. There's a recent study by Bearing Point and listed 52 blockchain projects in the German federal state and the government. And that's actually a good sign and an important first step to bring blockchain concept not just on paper, but into real life. You invited me to talk about Berlin. What about Berlin and blockchain? What happened here in the past month, years? The Berlin Senate has also been working on a first pilot in blockchain application since this summer. We are planning and digitalizing school reports using the blockchain technology and make school reports more user-friendly. My Senate department have joined forces with several other administrations. That's a good thing about blockchain. You have many connecting points to interact with other administration, like you guess the Department of Education, our central IT service center, Berlin, who's on the panel later. I thought, yeah, Mr. Grosse. Bundesdruckerei and Berlin Partner is as well part of this. And the central goal of the project is the digital creation and output of school reports for the lower and upper level of secondary schools, in addition to the paper forms. The paper forms we probably all got during our school time here in Germany. And this way the school reports can be digitalized, forgery proof, and their origin and integrity can be verified over a lifelong period. I think the advantages are obvious. It's the certificates and enables a significant less time-consuming application process, give full data sovereignty to the user, and can ensure significant cost reduction. So the paper version is no longer needed to be sent, presented, checked, archived, and returned at any time. I think there's a bonus feature for schools as well. They don't need their basements anymore for storing all the paper as an archive. And we want to actually the idea doing this and starting is actually learning from this, and then to start other cases, maybe to extend this. So I'm very curious about the outcome and how this whole process work. The fact that we can even talk about a live operation of blockchain application in Berlin with a manageable period is due to a very second positive development of last year. In December 2019, probably you know about this, the major public IT service provider and IT companies from several German states and the federal government joined forces to form GovDigital. And that has the goal actually to operate a blockchain infrastructure for future application on the public sector. It also gives companies the opportunity to set up their own application and services based on a trusted infrastructure. And with the support my Senate department and the Department of Interior, we proposed recently that our IT service center in Berlin becomes a member of the GovTech initiatives. I expect the necessary steps the Parliament has to take. You know, in this process, the Parliament has an important decision to make. Will be taken soon, and then we become a member of this initiative. In addition to testing a use case and creating infrastructure requirements, Berlin Blockchain's approach includes a third important component. The information and education of administrative staff about the possibilities of this technology. This is probably as well not a miracle to you that we have to talk about this a lot within administration. We already have several information event workshops with interest. Berlin administrative staff and those responsible for the IT processes, with the active support of BirdChain with Berlin Partner, And actually, we got an overall quite positive feedback, not just because people are very curious about this technology. You know, there's always this association of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. So actually explaining what the process is behind and what blockchain is capable of is quite exciting. And I can assure you we will continue this path in the future. So. Due to this first practical steps, I'm quite optimistic that blockchain technology in the public sector will become a normal part of possible IT solutions. This will take some time. I still think we have quite a road in front of us, but we made the first step, and I'm very optimistic that we are there on the right path. Therefore, I'm actually quite curious what you are discussing here today, actually for this path. Therefore, I'm again thanking you for inviting me at this conference, to having others from the scene here at the conference, to actually push this topic together a bit further. I wish you a very good discussion. It's a final day, isn't it? Of the conference, a good final day, and enjoy the conference. Thank you very much for having me and for the attention here and on the screens at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for being here today. The next person I want to welcome here on stage is Matti Grosse. He is an innovation manager at ITDZ. Welcome here. Thank you for being here today. And the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Is the microphone on? Yes, now it's on. Yeah. Dear Sasha, dear Silvan, dear Ricardo, dear Permanent Secretary Christian Rickerts. Yeah, of course, dear participants and dear online participants. It's a pleasure being here. Let me start with a little anecdote. It was like 1.5 years ago on my very first day at ITDZ, when I firstly saw Christian Rickerts in a meeting, which was quite interesting. Of course, it was my very first day. And then again, the blockchain theme was one of my very first topics on my desk during my time now at ITDZ. So I'm super happy that we are now on stage together telling the people about the first successful steps about the blockchain topic in the Berlin administration. I think, as you already mentioned, there are quite good things going on, and I hope that we have like the first successful results very soon. This maybe first. Yeah, so the ITDZ is like the central IT service provider. So we are supporting the Berlin administration, the capital, and all things around ICT. This is about supporting like 100,000 employees, yeah, at the Senate level, at the district level, and then all this kind of other public institutions. And yeah, one of actually the biggest tasks is, of course, like implementing the e-government law or e-government act that is in place here in Berlin, and of course guarantee like a well-functioning ICT infrastructure of Berlin. But it's also important to talk about the future. So I'm often asked, why do you talk about blockchain? Don't we have like any more severe problems in the Berlin administration? And yes, there are some challenges that needs to be done and completed, but I'm super in favor of saying we also need to think about the future and hopefully to close the gap between like the state-of-the-art technology level and the state-of-the-art of technology in the administration. So therefore, I'm always happy to have like promoters like Christian Rickerts, who's really someone who's like promoting all these future-oriented technologies and innovations. So, but now talking about blockchain, I mean, all participants are, I assume, experts in this level, so I don't need to tell you about like the advantages of blockchain technologies. But let me emphasize that I think that blockchain fits quite well the public sector and all this process is going on in the public sector. So in the past, we assume or it must be guaranteed that all things happening at the administration, at the state level, has a certain degree or like the high degree of integrity, traceability, reliability. And this also needs to be in place in the online context, in the digitized context. And so therefore, I think the blockchain technology is one of the offers or one of the technologies that is actually guaranteeing or supporting this kinds of characteristics that, so to say, government processes, government actions should have. Secondly, administrative processes should be effective and efficient, and I think the blockchain technologies offers here quite good solutions to that, and closely connected to this kind of, blockchain technology is the digital identity management, because I think it's very important that in the digitized context, you need to know to whom you are talking to or to whom you are communicating with, right? And to whom or with whom you are exchanging information. So this is super important. And I think the blockchain technologies can actually support this kind of, prerequisite that is actually necessary in this context. Yeah, and finally, also in the online context, in the digitized context, I think we need to strengthen the data sovereignty of all of citizens here in Berlin, but all throughout the world. And I think also the blockchain technology is by design a technology that is actually emphasizing or putting a big, is quite successful in this sense. Yeah, Christian Rickerts already mentioned the actually case that we are working on here in the Berlin administration. It's about the digitized school reports, and he already mentioned that actually it's a Senate for Education, of course, and it's his Senate department that is actually working on that, supported by this by us, the IT service providers. And what is actually the aim? The aim is here a forgery-proof creation and issuing of school reports. So you might ask why we are taking or why we are dealing with school reports, maybe as a first use case example in Berlin administration. And here's a list of things that is usually not so well in the context of school reports. Whenever you're applying for a job, maybe you know from the past that you need to hand in your school reports in order to apply. And the more often you are scanning and uploading your documents, the worse the quality gets, for example. And also you need to authenticate your documents in a very offline processes, and it sometimes even costs money and so on. And then, of course, if you do something in an online context, it's sometimes not guaranteed that information or data are not manipulated. And also the authentication is difficult to trace in the online context. So therefore, we are heading towards a digitized school or digitized school reports that include a blockchain component. And here's the solution we are currently working on. It's actually a solution created by the Bundesdruckerei, and it was developed at the Online Access Act Digital Laboratory Saxony Anhalt. So this is actually also an example of different federal states in Germany joining forces and developing one solution that is then, so to say, diffused to other states here in Germany. And so the main thing is that we are connecting like a physical version of the school report with a digitized version that includes then an signature and, so to say, a forgery proof. So I can then authenticate this kind of information in the school report and all application processes, for example. So here's a little bit about the system architecture. I assume a lot of you are like IT experts. And so therefore I brought this picture. So actually the issuing authority, which is of course the school, and then is issuing this kind of report, including this kind of machine readable data. And then the hashes, including so to say the originality or the authentication of the report to the blockchain, and all applying organizations. So for example, like universities or all kind of public enterprises or private enterprises then can access an online portal checking if the applications school report, for example, is then a valid one and the information is valid, and also the organization that was issuing the report is like an authority that actually can issue those kind of reports. yeah, as Christian Rickerts also already said, it's kind of a verification of origin and integrity over lifetime. This replaces some kind of costly authentication processes for the report holder, but also for the applying organization. And in the long run, we maybe also can eliminate the obligation to archive paper reports over many years in different cellars in Berlin. And finally, of course, data sovereignty is maybe one of the key issues that is also guaranteed in this context of the school reports. Yeah, what's actually next? We don't stop after we have finished digitizing school reports. We are planning to, in a short term, to scale the topic also for university reports, for all vocational school reports, vocational diplomas. So all kinds of, whenever I have a certificate or a report, and then this is like the short-term perspective, and then in the long run. Also important is the topic of digital identity and report management. So we are talking also already about self-sovereign identities in the context of the public administration, which is, from our perspective, a prerequisite for this kind of blockchain-based solutions. Also, access management is interesting, and registers and property rights management. So all this kind of characteristics that you are well familiar with. We also looking how that is actually applicable in the public sector context. So we will go there many more steps. So yeah, I think there's still a lot to do for us here in Berlin, the Berlin administration. But I think we are on the right track. And yeah, I was super happy to that I could present you the kind of status about current developments. And yeah, looking forward to the panel discussion later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matti, Grosse, for your time. If you want, you can have a seat here or later for the panel discussion. Maybe you just join me. Thank you. If you agree, maybe one little follow-up question. Thank you again for this presentation. Many people don't know that you're not only an innovation expert, but also for networking, cross-functional corporations. Maybe you can tell us how this helped you. Why is it important to build a network, and how did you achieve the goals?
This is a super interesting question. I think we need to join forces, because digitalization or the big digital transformation process that is going on in the public sector at the federal level, but also at the state level, this is a big task for all participants. And I think we need to join forces, join resources, because we need to do that next to the, how to say, like the things that are going on anyway, right? All of you would assume or expect the administration to function, right? At any point in time. And those kind of big transformation processes, and especially when we talk about such kind of transformative technologies as we see it, it's super difficult to find the right place and the right time and the right resources to start prototyping and to start to test the first applications. So therefore, I think we need to join different forces, different actors, in order to achieve synergies among them, but also to be fast at the end, right? If all of us would go alone, step by step, I think it would take much more time, and I think we wouldn't be successful, maybe not in the next years.
Thank you. I'm sure we have more time later to go into more detail, but now I want to hand over to Andreas Dittrich, head of the Blockchain Solution Center at T-Systems. Mr. Dittrich, a pleasure to have you here today, and the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you, Sasha. Hello, everyone. First of all, obviously you can see me because I can see me on the big screen, but can you also hear me?
Yes, we can.
Cool. So hi, everyone. Let me share my screen first with you. Pleasure being here, and I think that this is a very well chosen panel participant list, because we all collaborate on the basically on the use cases that we'll be talking about today, which I think is great. So can you see the presentation view of my PowerPoint? Okay, let's start. So first of all, I have to apologize because I'm always talking about this topic and especially this use case in German. So my bad, I was expecting this for today, knowing this is a blockchain organized event, which will be in English. So I'll be talking in English. The slides are in German. They do exist in English. So you will have them after the event. At the moment, the upshot might be that you hear me stumbling across my slides and at the same time learn a little bit of German because I will try to spontaneously translate the words on the slide deck. Who are we? I'm from the, as Sasha pointed it out, I'm from the Blockchain Solution Center. I would say we are the center of gravity in Deutsche Telekom when it comes to implementing blockchain solutions. Half of us are techies, software engineers, software architects, security architects. Half of us are consultants, business consultants, technical consultants, testers, and so on. We do mainly two things. One is providing infrastructure for blockchain use cases and for blockchain networks, especially public blockchains in general. Every blockchain is a decentralized network. A network consists of nodes. Who runs those nodes? Well, we are. And we, among enabling the use cases, we also enable financial products on top of blockchains because our nodes basically provide the economy on those networks. Second part, and this is what I'll be talking about today, is implementing blockchain use cases, such as the one with the BAMF. So sitting together with our customers and partners, seeing which business processes need to be optimized, where blockchain might be a solution, and then basically implementing and bringing this solution to life. That's what we do. Today I'm talking about the blockchain use case at the BAMF. This project by now is called Flora, which is a nice acronym, and you wouldn't guess it's about blockchain, but the L and the O is from blockchain. There's a lot of information about this online, so we'll spare you some details. This slide deck includes a lot of links and videos, and you're happy to check it out should the 10 minutes that I have here not be sufficient. So when we talk about cross-agency processes, and this is something we have at the BAMF with the asylum management processes, there are several first word I can't translate on the fly, several challenges, right? First of all, we have complex processes spanning a high number of agencies. I think for the BAMF, this is, it could be in the final version a few hundred agencies, offices that need to collaborate together. Those are, of course, in our federal system in Germany, so they are in different states of the German Union. You have to adhere to diverse legal requirements, and not everyone has the same interpretation of the laws. And of course, data privacy is a huge issue. As you can imagine, the asylum management process is about managing individuals, some personally identifiable data attached to them. And this is what we'll be working with, so highly sensitive. Unfortunately, it's still not there. We do not have a unified standard for IT in Germany, in the German Union, the Federal Republic of Germany, and we also have incompatibilities. Standardization, this is nothing specific to the public sector, is a long process. And then we have to be honest, we're not fully digitized yet in Germany, not only in the public sector as well. So we need to have digital analog transformations. And we also have manual process steps because the processes are not fully automated. So this is what we're dealing with. And this is especially true when we're dealing with asylum seekers coming to Germany. You might remember the situation in 2015 where, I don't know the full number, but hundreds of thousands of people came to Germany seeking for asylum. So they all needed to be registered, needed to have a fair process, and subsequent actions, whether or not they're allowed to stay and so on. So you can imagine that this brought the current process system basically to its limits. So the idea was to optimize this, and with a very innovative technology named blockchain. So how exactly would it work here? Well, let's have the simplified example on the slide deck. We have 3 agencies here, ABC. They're basically fulfilling a process together. This might be, and I'm just making this up here because obviously I'm not the expert from the BAMF here. The BAMF would know better how to fill in, but just for the sake of illustrating it, you would have the police here, for example, picking up the asylum seeker at the border, registering it. Then there is some evaluation of the person being done, maybe another check with the police, and in the end, you might a court might decide whether or not that asylum seeker is allowed to stay. But you could, using a blockchain, you could save those process steps on the blockchain to make sure that there's only one information transparent for all participating parties, so that all parties know where we're at, what's the next step to do, what's the information connected to that step, and so on. What's the benefit for asylum management in this case? Well, obviously, also the process itself, the logic of the asylum management process itself can be put on the blockchain, so everybody is working on the same process. Also, this is not always true in current, especially in traditional systems, traditional analog systems. If you don't adhere to this unified process, this is also documented on the blockchain, which is another advantage if you need to trace back problems. Security of blockchain, obviously, whatever is saved on the blockchain is there. So in case something goes wrong, you can always check back, where did it go wrong, right? And see, first of all, solve the current problem, and then optimize the process to avoid that problem in the future. The fun part is, and this is not usually that, especially if you talk to non-blockchain people, is that it is actually a lot faster. And this is not per se the benefit of the blockchain technology. This is the benefit of digitizing those processes, because we always have the same, like every participating agency has the same knowledge about the process and which step is next. We do not have any communication overhead in making this known to the participating parties. And this in turn speeds up the process, less waiting time. Okay, here's a little illustration, very simplified, of the first POC that we did. And you can see that there are 2 agencies left and right. That is an illustration. The one, I hope it starts over again. So there's the asylum seeker coming, he gets registered, that's the data the file is been in, and then later we will decide whether or not the person is allowed to stay or not, and then this way continues. And you can see it's always, we're handing over, say, there's responsibility for the next process step as documented in the process which is put on the blockchain. And this example is the BAMF, so Bundesamt, I thought it's the Bundesagentur für Migration und Flüchtlinge, but I might be wrong, the Federal Agency for Migration and Refugees, together with the Central Foreigner Agency in this case. This was one first POC. The project itself is a lot further ahead, currently working on specific processes of Anwendungsbereich or use case area 1, you might say in English, registration, creation, or file creation, and Anhörung, which is basically interviewing the asylum seeker. And working together on this process are the Federal Agency for Migration and Refugees and the Landesdirektion Sachsen, which I do not have a proper translation for. We already are far behind, ahead after this POC that I just showed. So you can see there are a lot more process steps being implemented in a pilot phase. We're currently evaluating this pilot, so this blockchain-powered process is actually live side by side with the traditional process. You can see how this is implemented on the lower left here. So you have BAMF and Landesdirektion Sachsen with their respective legacy applications that they're working with, and they have 2 different front ends to use those legacy applications. We will later evaluate then whether or not we are actually having a better situation than before. This is, of course, extendable, and this is where it becomes interesting, but because it will need to be extended. If it works, it's worth being extended, and then it needs to be extended. And you can see that it's pretty easy because the hosting of the nodes, obviously the BAMF node is being hosted by ITDZ Bund. But if you have, let's say, connecting processes to this Registrierung, Aktenlage und Anhörung process, you could add other participants, and the only thing that they need is a blockchain node that connects to the proper blockchain infrastructure that was set here. By the way, it was set up on Hyperledger Fabric. And the rest on top, you can decide for yourself whether you do it the same way as the BAMF, right? Have a specific API talking to your blockchain node and your legacy application on top, or whether you have a fully newly implemented application. This is really up to you. And the front end, obviously, this is up to you. And this is what is going to happen, not only for BAMF, in my opinion, but for many other cases that are being implemented at the moment. Again, some more information. I will save some time and just leave it for now. But trying to translate only this one, let's say, citation of Mr. Munzi, who is head of the referat for software engineering at BAMF, is that everywhere where we do have a cross-agency data exchange, where you have a high, say, requirements for the integrity and security of this data, blockchain technology became one of the answers to do this in a revisionssicher way, so legally dependent way. And I would fully underline that. We have a panel discussion later. So I thought I'd end this presentation with a few inspiration points that we should think about. This is just BAMF, and this is BAMF, and I think BAMF has been very innovative in really bringing this to life and really pushing this forward since more than 2 years now, together with us and together with other partners. We are not the only service providers supporting the BAMF here. There's also the blockchain strategy of the German government. We have Andreas Hartl here. Maybe he'll talk a little bit more about this later. One very important point in the blockchain strategy is the term digital sovereignty. Right? For digital sovereignty, you need digital and decentralized identities, and you need infrastructures for that. By the way, this is what the BAMF case needs as well. And you need infrastructures to connect the different parts of the identity of a person, be it from a public part, be it the personal, your passport or whatever, or be it, let's say, your company identification or whatever. You need decentralized identity infrastructures to make this happen. Online Zugangsgesetz, I don't know a word in English for that, but this is a law that was put in place, and that basically says that until end of 2022, all public services need to be available in digitized form, right? And this means the BAMF process for every agency that has public services. So we need to cooperate. You have more cross-agency, cross-company cooperation, and you have this across states in Germany. You will have this on a European level sooner or later or not as well. And this is, I think, where another initiative should be named is the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, probably well known here in the room as well. So this means whatever services we put in place, the asylum management process, this is not a German process in the end. We have our German part, but asylum management is a European problem. So it's a European process. And this is why it's in the, let's say, next round of EPSI use cases that will be funded and will be set up, there's also a European asylum management process. So BAMF on EU level. And I'm pretty optimistic, and this is what I want to end with, that we can actually make this happen, not only here in Berlin. I know we're talking about the capital, but I always want to extend this to Germany and Europe, because in the end, that's what we're part of. A very positive example is the Corona app, which started as a German initiative in Germany, and by now is interoperable with a few other countries already, and others will follow. So we are able in Europe to collaborate, although blockchain is not part of the Corona warning, I have to say that. Right? But we are able to make cross-agency, cross-country collaboration happen in digitized form. We have blockchain as a great technology for that, so let's do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas Dittrich. It was very interesting to see those insights. You said you already achieved a lot, but there's still a lot of things to do. You mentioned self-sovereign identity, which the BAMF might need. If you dream of the future, what do you think the BAMF process will look like in the future, or what is missing? What do we need to accelerate this innovation?
Oh, if I could dream, I would dream that BAMF is really one point in space. Okay, and now let's say I'm an asylum seeker. I'm lucky and I'm able to stay in Germany. There are new services that I would need. Wohngeld, I don't know. I need to register in the city. I'm not the expert in public services, but this is what will happen to me. I will be able to use all those services while I am in Germany. And I would love to have one identity, my own self-sovereign identity that I can use for all those services, and all the agencies in the back are interconnected as well. Right? This is a long way to go, but basically this is what the online Zugangsgesetz law says will have to be in place. At least they need to be digital accessible. Now, if they're also connected in the back end, that will be simply awesome. But I'm pretty sure we'll be there. Right? Sooner or later, we'll be there.
Okay, thank you. Maybe one more question. After 3 speakers now, it sounds like blockchain is the perfect solution for everything, but I'm sure you also experienced some problems, maybe even barriers. Could you please tell us about those problems, about those difficulties?
Well, first of all, blockchain is just a technology. So what BAMF is solving here, blockchain solves part of it on a technological level, but in the end, this is agencies collaborating together. And those are the problems we need to solve. We need to understand the business processes and optimize the business process, and maybe blockchain helps. Okay, so it's not one thing fits all solution. And the biggest problem, I would say, data privacy, especially in this case. Right? So we can put process steps on the blockchain, but what do we do with the data that is connected to those steps? There are some solutions, but this will remain. It already is. So blockchain also doesn't solve that. It makes it hard, in my opinion, to guarantee the data privacy of the individuals that we're handling and with our public processes.
Okay, thank you. We want to talk about data privacy later in the panel discussion, so maybe we just do it later. Thank you very much, Andreas Dittrich. Next person is Andreas Hartl. I'm very happy that he's here today, and yeah, the stage is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Thanks to Blockchain Berlin Partner and all the other organizers. So greetings from Kreuzberg 61 nach Kreuzberg 36. I'm really sorry I cannot attend the meeting physically, but I think this is having difficult times, a very good solution, so thank you. And another thing I would really like to highlight, so I'm also in charge of artificial intelligence, and what we notice in artificial intelligence is that when it's about dealing with data, diversity is very important. And I know it's hard to organize events, but I would really like to see the next event with a bit more of gender diversity on the panel. Having said this, I'm really happy to not give a specific use case like the 2 before, but maybe give an introduction in what we are doing with our blockchain strategy as a use case and some more aspects. So as you know, it's almost 1 year ago that the federal government adopted its blockchain strategy, the first encompassing blockchain strategy in the world, by the way. As far as I know, only Australia now also has a comprehensive blockchain strategy. There are many countries in the world with specific strategies on aspects of blockchain, but not a comprehensive approach. So we are, I must say, a bit proud of it. And what's really interesting is that I got feedback from all over the world that even the process in that we published so many input open on our website or internet website was very important. So there are many people translating the German comments into English for their purposes. Really interesting feedback. Now, our strategy has 4 objectives, and I think talking about blockchain in the public administration, all 4 are very important. First, we want to use the opportunities in blockchain technologies. This applies not only for the private sector or the societal sector, but also especially for the public sector. We also want to mobilize the potential for the digital transformation as such. So blockchain is one important technology for digital transitions, disruptive developments. The third objective is to maintain and expand the German blockchain ecosystem, like for instance foremost in Berlin. This is very important for us, of course, as the federal government. And the fourth is diffusing information and knowledge. And this maybe reflects, when it comes to the public sector, one of the biggest challenges, that many people have a not very precise and profound knowledge of what blockchain is about. And so I think it's a very challenging objective, but it's a very promising thing to do when it comes to promoting blockchain uptake in German public administrations. Now we have 5 areas of action in our strategy. One specifically relates to applying the technology also in the public administration services sector. And maybe to give you some indication what we are doing in our ministry at the moment, we have a horizontal project running on digital identities. The project is not on blockchain only, it's a technology neutral aspect or project, but there in the whole funding scheme, there are 2 or 3 projects on blockchain-based digital identities. And I think this highlights one of the major issues, maybe, the major features of blockchain technology for public administration services. Then we have 2 pilots in the energy sector. One is a database for energy facilities. As you know, with the energy transition, the Energiewende, the energy generation and consumption will become more and more decentralized. And I think blockchain technology as a decentralized database system is a perfect match for that. And we also have a pilot lab for the energy sector where the blockchain technologies are piloted in a lab situation. So not only a database, but also a lab situation. Now, maybe some remarks also to fuel a bit the discussion we will have on the panel. And I'm glad that Staatssekretär Rickerts mentioned the study by Bearing Point, so I don't have to do that in detail. But maybe one of the most important takeaways for me was that, yes, we have a lot of projects in Germany in the public administration, but the maturity of the projects is very low. And also when you look at the projects we have, we just heard from Andreas Dittrich about the asylum case. And also this is a pilot at the moment, and there's still a lot of way to go until we could see that this will be a really operational system. But nevertheless, it's very good, and we really appreciate the work done by our colleagues in the Federal Agency for Migration and Refugees, very much, and the colleagues from our Ministry of Interior who are responsible for that. We also see some interesting, 2 other interesting pilots. One is from the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development called True Budget. Now, True Budget is a system to supervise if funding in countries of the third world is spent in the way that is used to be. So you have more transparency of who spent how much money for which project. And I think this is a very promising instrument. And another pilot, but also not very mature, but again, at least compared with other projects, it is quite mature, is dealing with a bill of lading. So freight papers in the logistics sector. And I think that also refers very good and is bringing the public and the private sector together, because the bill of lading has a lot of aspects for private companies, but also for authorities, so for the public sector. And there, I think one of the maybe next to identity, but also identity plays here a role, but to have an origin of truth, a single origin of truth in a complex system like international logistics, international shipping is very, very promising. And I think that project about the bill of lading is a very promising project. Now, another thing I would like to highlight, and maybe I get some boos now out of the Berlin blockchain community, but I'm used to that when I mention this, is, you know, when I'm asked what would be my advice, my recommendation for blockchain startups would be to not go on the brown field. Think about the green field. What do I mean with that? Now, we have a very well-established system of land registries, for instance, and many suppose that, you know, land registries or company registries should migrate to a blockchain system. But I think this is not a very promising way, because there are existing systems in place, and it's always hard to replace a system by another when the benefits are not clear. So to make the benefits clear, my advice would be to think about the green field where there's nothing. And also the bump use case we just heard, the asylum use case, that was a green field. Of course, there are databases for asylum procedures, but this specific aspect, there was a green field. And this would be my advice, to think about where you can showcase the benefits of blockchain technologies on the green field. Another aspect I would like to just quickly mention is that, you know, representing a state institute, we have to be neutral. And one aspect is also technology neutrality. So when it comes to blockchain as a technology, it's hard to walk this thin line of, on the one hand, promoting blockchain technology, and on the other hand, to remain technologically neutral. So this is why I think when startups, the blockchain community is approaching us, they should have that in mind, that we're not blindfoldedly supporting blockchain technology because it's blockchain. Blockchain technology, I think, has many features, but we shouldn't just not promote blockchain because it's new. We should promote blockchain when it's better or the best technology, and that, from my side, is very important. But again, I think it's a very promising thing. And what I would to conclude my input, would like to highlight is that we are thinking about to help promoting blockchain technologies with regulatory sandboxes. We have a task force for that. So whoever needs support with a pilot and sees some barriers in the legal framework, please contact our ministry. Maybe we can help with our task force on regulatory sandboxes to also maybe, you know, get more experiences on technologies, on blockchain technologies in the field when it's operational, so that we get a better understanding what regulation needs to be in place, which can be replaced by other more blockchain savvy framework. Maybe finally, I'm really glad that Andreas Dittrich mentioned the European Blockchain Partnership. We're very proud that the bump use case is now one of the use cases of the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. And what I would like to highlight here is that the European Blockchain Partnership and the EBSI, the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure, has now reached a state of maturity that we can open a kind of a limited access for startups, for companies to test their business models, their solutions, if there's any kind of integration with the blockchain use cases in the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure is possible. So if you're interested in one of the use cases, we have use cases on the notarization of diplomas, on identity, self-sovereign identity, asylum use cases, and some more. So please contact us and maybe we can help you to test if your solution can be integrated into that public structure. So maybe this as some food for thought. And I'm now really looking forward to the discussion on the panel. Thank you so far for having me.
Thank you very much, Andreas Hartl. That was very interesting to see. I really liked your sentence that we should use blockchain when it's the best solution and not just because it is blockchain. You just mentioned the land registry as one example where it might not be the best solution. Could you think of other examples where blockchain is probably not the best solution, although it's maybe hyped?
Well, I mean, these are when it comes to public services, I think the two most prominent examples, land registry, company registry. I think when it also gets a bit peculiar is when it when the demand is that we should have a digital ID based on blockchain. Maybe it should be a bit more open and complementary, and maybe blockchain used as a digital ID. I don't know if you know the ID is so important. Maybe we could start with other public permissions, like I don't know, driver license. And I know that there are some tests there, but maybe you should not start with the most delicate, with the most sensitive use case. It could also be other permissions that can be at least complementary, being operated also on a blockchain.
All right. Thank you very much again.
Sure.
So I'd say we start with the panel discussion, which will be a bit special today because one of our guests is here and two are just online, but we will try to make the best out of it. Today we want to talk about how can the capital of blockchain capitalize on blockchain, which of course is very important for public administrations. So I asked you to prepare a small opening statement. If you, Matti, Grosse, want to start, just what makes it, can be capitalized on blockchain and why is it important to capitalize on blockchain?
So thanks for the question. Yeah. Well, at the beginning of my presentation, I actually raised a couple of points, and I think this are the most important, or summing that up. It means I think that the blockchain technologies fit the requirements of public administration processes in many places quite well. Of course, I fully agree that it's not the blockchain technology that is like one size fits all technology. So, and we can apply it to any type of process and activity. But I think there are quite a couple of processes that fit quite well to the characteristic like traceability, integrity, and all this kind of thing that are also requirements for public sector processes. Yeah. I think that's regarding the kind of why we need the blockchain technologies and capitalizing on that. I think, yes, as we already see quite a couple of good examples, and I'm quite happy that we all also working on some cases here in Berlin. I think it's important to get things done, right? To not think about if blockchain is a good technology or bad technology or about doing strategies and all that stuff. But it's more about having the first pilots ready and also like communicating about them and telling the people what's actually the benefit. And yeah, we are really looking forward to hand over the first school reports, including a digital version based, or including then a blockchain component. And yeah, telling people that, yeah, public administration is quite innovative and we have quite cool things done here.
All right. Andreas, Dittrich, maybe you want to go next?
Well, first of all, I'm pretty. I make a joke first because I was confused when Andreas Hartl said that he's calling from Kreuzberg 61. Since the picture doesn't look like Kreuzberg 61, I'm in Kreuzberg 36, and this is what it looks like outside here. So, but only during the panel. Unfortunately, later when you go out, probably it will be just as rainy as it is today. I will keep my statement short. We need courage for any type of innovation, and this is just as true for blockchain as for anything else. The public sector, in my opinion, especially with the federal situation that we have in Germany and in the European Union, there's huge potential for optimizing processes using blockchain technology, but it needs courage, and it needs the courage of individuals to really try it out. And yeah, I would like to encourage everyone to do that because there are positive examples already.
Thank you. Andreas Hartl, you're next.
Well, thank you. What more to say? I mean, I would agree that it really needs a leadership from the top to support and to have a innovation-friendly culture, or especially in public administrations. And I think it's a good sign that Herr Richter, who used to be the deputy president of the Federal Agency for Migration and Refugees, now is the CIO of the federal government. He's now a state secretary in the Federal Ministry for the Interior. And I think, hopefully he will be so successful as he has been at the BAMF with the whole federal government. So I think that's a very promising thing. And the next thing maybe I would like to add is that I think it's startups just do things, and I would sometimes wish that this culture of just begin, start, readjust on the fly would be more appreciated. But on the other hand, there are budget restrictions. You can't just blow money out of the window, as it might be the case in the private sector. So, sometimes I fully understand why colleagues are restraining. But on the other hand, if you want to be innovative, I think there is a small line that can be taken, and we need to do this.
Okay, thank you very much. So I heard we need courage, we need a good leadership, we need to take risks, but as you already said, only to a certain level, because of course we have a limited budget for innovation. So that's very interesting to see. Can you imagine of other things that we need to accelerate innovation? I mean, we're not bad in Germany, but can you imagine of things that we should do different or should do better? Question to all of you.
Well, I think there are certain aspects that and I would like to talk about the whole of Europe in that. I think we need more venture capital. We need better access to venture capital. We need some tax laws be more friendly for, for instance, that in startups you pay your people sometimes with stock options, and that is very difficult according to German tax law. And I think that would be another thing to be improved, to be more attractive on a global level. Then I think we really have to work more on the education of people to better understand the potential of blockchain technology. And in the recent years, some developments really were not very helpful, to be very honest. So this ICO rush 2 years ago, it was detrimental to what we tried to set up at the same time. but again, I think it's a knowledge, and I see a window of opportunity again coming up for blockchain technologies, and I think we have to be ready for that. We are working in the European blockchain partnership with the European blockchain services infrastructure a lot on that, to have really use cases showcasing the potential and the benefits.
Yeah, maybe I can add a couple of points. I fully agree. And something that I would like to add is that we need promoters at more places, or at the right places, so at all different structures of the public administration, but also support from the industry, of course. But regarding the promoters, it's super important to have this kind of support, because otherwise you're focusing on this kind of task that you were given from different other aspects, or you were looking at very much in the past. And if you have the promoters, Markus Richter was already mentioned, which is maybe one of the promoter at the right place now. Yeah, we need those kind of people supporting this. We have a couple of them here in the Berlin administration. We have at the state level. So more and more people, yeah, agree on the fact that we should use the potential of technologies, right? Because if you sometimes look at the public administration, you think maybe not of the most innovative place, but I think this is changing right now. And if, as my colleague said already, yeah, the more and more use cases we have, and like real applications that are live, so that are functioning and in action, the more people agree that we are on the right track, and then I think that maybe then we get a dynamic into this, and more people also agree that it makes sense and it works out if we use innovative technologies, as I would say, or would name them.
Okay, so we need to promote the technology. We need to educate people about the potential of the technology. You just mentioned the ICO rush 2 years ago. Do you think the blockchain technology suffers from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin? Do you think it has a bad reputation because of that?
Yeah, and at the same time, I mean, let's be clear. Cryptocurrencies also have potential. I mean, we see that China is thinking about a digital yuan. Russia is thinking about a digital ruble. The US government is thinking about a digital US dollar. And as far as I know, of course, also the European Central Bank is thinking about that. Now, and of course, you know, using tokens as a means of startup financing, as such, is neutral. It's not bad as such, but there were, I think, some, you know, whenever there's something new, it's you sometimes have the problem that there are nice guys and bad guys, and you know the bad guys just you know facilitate and dominate the discussion. But you know when that is over, I think there's again a window of opportunity for more, you know, for showcasing the benefits and the positives. And I'm confident there will be a time for that. Maybe to add this, I mean, I'm in charge of artificial intelligence, blockchain, and the data economy. You know, for me, AI, blockchain are technologies, very important technologies for the data economy. And what we see at the moment is that we have a discussion shift from technologies like AI, blockchain, to data. I would make the bold statement that currently data is in the heart of the political debate. We have a European data strategy. The federal government is working on a data strategy. We are working on more open data. We are working on making closed data more shared data. And now, I would say that there is so much potential for blockchain technologies to foster these developments together with AI. And my recommendation would be to very intensely follow that debate, this track, and especially when it comes to, I don't know, open data, blockchain technologies, and access to data. With blockchain technologies, you have a perfect technology to set and define who may have access to which data under what conditions. And we are on a green field in that. The European Commission will submit on November 11th the first legislative proposal from the data strategy. It will be on the Data Governance Act. It will have 4 pillars. One will be data donations, data altruism. The other thing will be data trusts to enable data sharing. Then another thing will be interoperability, standardization. And the 4th pillar will be research data centers to deal with issues like IP rights, data protection, or trade secrets, because these are restraints from making data available for other companies or for researchers. Now with blockchain, you have the tools to make this access to data and conditions for the access clear in a system of many institutions, many persons who don't know each other or maybe don't trust each other. And this is a perfect explanation for blockchain.
Yeah, I already realized we could talk about that all night probably because it's so interesting.
No trouble about that.
Yeah, but we also want to talk about other things. Maybe Andreas Dittrich, you look like you want to add something. As far as I remember, the first time you worked with blockchain was with the Ethereum blockchain. So I guess you don't agree that cryptocurrency is completely bad?
No, definitely not. And by the way, cryptocurrencies are mostly productive assets and as such, highly interesting to financial service providers. And this is now regulated in Germany since the beginning of the year. So this is far from being, well, you might call it exotic or novel, but this is serious stuff. And we're supporting that with our infrastructure services. I had to grin a bit when you asked, Sasha, about what about Bitcoin? You know, does it hurt your arguments? And I don't know how often I said at the beginning of the talk, this is not about Bitcoin. But that's not Bitcoin is not the problem. The problem is that during the blockchain hype, a lot too much was promised. Bitcoin was the most prominent crypto use case out there with certain characteristics that people think are bugs, such as proof of work as a consensus algorithm. So, but I don't think that is. So yes, you still need to mention, by the way, the bump case is not about Bitcoin. I sometimes need to do that. But I think we've come a long way, and this is not really part of any serious discussion anymore. We are now in a situation where we focus on solutions, and those solutions might incorporate blockchain as a technology. So we're improving KPIs, we're solving problems, and blockchain is part of that. And this is usually, at least in my experience, this is what discussions are about right now. And this is something that comes with, with the hype having stopped, like maybe, let's say, 2 years ago or something. Actually, I'm very happy that we have saner and more healthier discussions at the moment than we had 2 or 3 years ago. And as I said, cryptocurrencies are digital assets. Any asset will be digitized in the future. I'm pretty sure about that. So they are serious.
Okay, I see the others nodding, so you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think cryptocurrency, of course, interesting development, and I think there are quite some enthusiasts into this topic. Yeah, what then happens often, and Andreas mentioned it already, is that people then transfer arguments or advantages and disadvantages from this cryptocurrency discussion to the blockchain discussion and all the other use cases. So for example, when I'm debating about blockchain technology use here in Berlin, then of course people raising questions like, yeah, what about the huge amount of energy that is needed to run the blockchain system, right? And then you are on this discussion that yeah, most of us already have behind us, I would say. But it's still, I think we should still put that into our communication strategy, but because we can't assume that all people are familiar with technologies. And of course, there's a lot of news and information online available. And I think it's also our task as those people that are implementing those at quite critical points. So like, let's say public sector processes, to communicate and to raise those important questions and to clarify on those points. So therefore I would argue to include that and still in discussion and clarify on that.
Okay. Maybe we can talk a bit about data privacy. Andreas, Dittrich, you already mentioned it before. A lot of people have concerns regarding data privacy, probably because they heard that you cannot delete a blockchain. What do you tell those people to settle their doubts?
Oh, those are serious doubts, and it really depends on the use case what I would answer. Because there has been no clear answer before blockchain or without blockchain technology. Data privacy in a connected digital world is a real problem. Right? So it depends on the use case. What I would say is that yes, well, first of all, you can delete blockchains, but whatever is on the blockchain, I mean, that's the idea of it, should be immutable and should stay on there forever. So there are technologies that can help dealing with data that is already on the blockchain, as long as all participants agree. Right? And there are things like zero knowledge proof who help with verifying personally identified credentials, for example, without actually putting them on the blockchain. So there are technological solutions to that. But you answered what I would say in my short answer is there is no one answer. It's about process design, security, data privacy need to be included by design right from the beginning, whenever you start a project, whenever you start solving projects. And this hasn't changed just because we're working with blockchain.
Yeah, I think it's a very critical point, of course, and we need to consider that, yeah, as Andreas said, straight from the beginning. Yeah, I mean, there are discussions like, you know, what kind of data is stored where, and I mean, at the end, so to say, roughly speaking, it's like in the blockchain you have like you store like hashes, right? And you don't like store the private data or like the how to say the personenbezogene, the personal data in the blockchain. One key issue is, of course, is there any chance to make any, how to say that in English, to like going from the hash back to the personal data? Is there any chance to go this way? So and we need to exclude somehow this.
Just to make this clear for our audience, because not everybody is a techie. So you mean that the personal data is not inside the blockchain, it's just linked to a hash. So we still get the advantages of blockchain without storing the personal data inside the blockchain.
Right. So like the school report, for example, it gets a hash, right? And the hash value is then stored in the blockchain, but like the personal data of the student is not stored in the blockchain, right? And then at the end, if like the applying organization is checking the report, it's not about checking the personal data, it's checking about if the school report is a valid school report, and if the authority that was issuing the report is a valid authority that is actually able to do that, right? But again, like the most important thing is to guarantee that you cannot, so to say, track the personal data based on the hash value that is stored. I think there are quite some technical solutions for that, but of course this is important. But maybe another interesting thing is, for example, again regarding the school reports. I mean, it's not a blockchain-specific problem, the data privacy problem, right? You need to consider that in all types of digital processes and technology that you apply. And going one step back, I mean, in the physical world, when you get like your physical school report, do you have any chance to say my school report should be deleted, right? So this is not like part of the law or like the regulation that is in place in the offline world. So, and now we are discussing sometimes about points in the online world, in the digitized world, that this requirement is not even there in the offline world, right? And then this we also need to take into account when raising those critical questions about these issues.
Yeah.
I would like to add something, if possible, Sasha.
Of course.
When talking about the blockchain and data privacy, too often we're focusing on a very specific part, which is the deletion of data. The data privacy is also about minimizing data and only collecting data where it is strictly necessary to do so, personally identifiable data. We must never forget, and this is about process design, that data, personally identifiable data, in a sense, is toxic data, because once you collected it, you need to deal with it according to strict laws, especially in Europe. So don't do that. And that's also what the law says. Don't do that if you strictly don't need to do that. I know there are companies that have a business model based on personal identifiable data, but usually, and especially if we talk about process in the public sector, you don't. This is not your business model. You just need to collect some data. So care about minimizing it and only collecting it where it is especially needed, and you will have less problems with such data on the blockchain. But of course, it shouldn't be on the blockchain in clear text, as was already pointed out, because once it's in clear text there, you'd have another problem. But again, deletion is just the last problem that we need to solve.
Okay, Andreas, Hartl, is there something you want to add, or do you agree?
No, I mean, I subscribe to what has been said. Maybe to give you an insight that we're not just talking about it, but we also try to find a way of dealing with it. One means of the blockchain strategy is that we set up a blockchain roundtable, a blockchain workshop on aspects of privacy and the digital general data protection regulation. Now, and I think Andreas Dittrich took part in the previous session. We also had the Federal Commissioner for Data Protection and Information Freedom, Ulrich Kelber. And the objective of this roundtable, of this workshop, is to identify problems. We don't want to talk about politics. We want to talk about problems that real companies have and find a way to solve these in compliance with GDPR. And I really hope that this format will be successful. Maybe to mention another issue, I attended the INATBA conference in Malaga previous November. And there was a session on data privacy and also a representative from the European Board of Data Protection. And he announced that the European Data Protection Board will publish some guidelines on blockchain and GDPR. I assume that due to the coronavirus, they could not finalize that by now. But I really hope that this gives some orientation and specific instructions to startups, to developers.
Okay, I want to jump in here because of the time and also because you just mentioned the coronavirus. 2020 was a very special year, but it also showed us that we have a lot of things still to do regarding digitization. Do you think this is just a short-term hype during the pandemic, or do you think it will, in the long term, accelerate innovation and maybe even the blockchain technology?
Sorry, did you ask if the coronavirus is just a hype?
Yeah, no, the consequences of the coronavirus. So it showed us that we need more digitization, right? Is this just a short-term hype, or is it like a long-term development?
Well, I hope it sounds cynical, and I don't want to be cynical, but if this has one good aspect, is that people notice that digital technologies can support the way we live, the way we cooperate, and also how public administrations can work. I mean, this really was a very painful month, not only because of the pandemic, but also because, I mean, companies struggled in public administrations too, in very short time to find ways to collaborate. I mean, now we have a stable situation, and I mean, something like this would not have been so easy a couple of months ago. That I'm sitting in my home office, and can take part in this conference. So I mean, and I really hope that this will be one of the positives out of the whole pandemic. I really hope so.
Yeah, I would agree, and I also hope so that we keep the speed of digitization and implementing those required technologies and processes. I mean, in my personal experience, this year was for this kind of more future-oriented technologies, as for example blockchain or AI. It was a little bit more difficult because, of course, people were we had to reorganize our entire structure and the entire way we are working, right? Especially in the public sector, in which still a lot of processes are still like physical or paper-based. So we had to focus on this kind of keeping or getting people to work at home or remotely. That was a key issue. And then, of course, if you then come with your, let's say, innovative projects, so like blockchain, AI, or RPA, or all that stuff, then of course people say currently we have quite a different focus and different and other problems. So let's wait a couple of minutes until then we go back to this kind of more future-oriented problems. But as we already, I think, figured out in the discussion, we should not think in this way, but thinking in a way where can also those kind of technologies even help us with current problems and challenges that we have. And this is sometimes missing, and therefore I'm very glad that we have, for example, here on the panel or also in the administration, more and more people seeing this connection and promoting those technologies also for the current issues. And then we also get this kind of new technologies faster mature also in the public sector context.
Okay, thank you. As we are getting closer to the end, there's just one more question. We heard a lot of good use cases today. Did you make some really bad experience with a very bad use case, or something went really wrong?
So in all the projects we did, they were almost 200% successful. So unfortunately, I can give you a bad example. No, just joking, of course. I think it was a question also to Andreas Hartl at the end, the bad blockchain use cases that have been sold as good ones. I have a very provocative opinion on that, which is about the use case that's been oversold, in my opinion, which is the supply chain or product provenance at blockchain, almost the most famous blockchain use case. And in the end, the main problem is not solved by blockchain. Right? So if you have a supply chain, you have physical entities, you have people that you need to trust, and you have physical goods that are being transported. And blockchain, the only thing that blockchain can do is take care of the data that you store, and it will do that in an immutable and secure way. But the problem that you still need to trust whoever's giving you that data is not solved by blockchain and cannot be solved by blockchain. You need secure IoT devices if it's somewhere, I don't know, in automated processes. You need certifications and so on. So the problem is being solved by other things, and if they are solved, then blockchain can do the rest. So that's my provocative example is always the supply chain case is not a blockchain case because blockchain doesn't solve it.
Okay. Anything to add? Any bad experience? I mean, that's a good thing. That you
luckily not so far. So.
Yeah. All right.
Well, maybe, I mean, my division is something like a think tank. But we are not really commissioning or procuring, coordinating real projects. But I would say that making mistakes is a necessary thing when you learn, when you improve. I mean, early prototyping, it's essential that you make mistakes, and I would like to see more failures, more mistakes, because that would mean that there's at all more going on. I would really like to conclude with two things. One is we will start very soon with an expert dialogue. Also something from our strategy where we would like to make deep dives with studies, with workshops on certain aspects. Now, we won't make a module on the biggest mistakes in blockchain history, but I think, you know, it's just part of the process. But one thing I would like to rephrase maybe this question is that what I really see with certain degree of anxiety is that, you know, I'm connected with many companies all over the world and via OECD. I've contact with many other jurisdictions. And what I see is that we have a vibrant Berlin blockchain community. What I'm not seeing is that there are many business cases that are being commercialized. And many of the use cases that are commercialized come from the usual suspects we see in the technology sector. And, you know, I fully understand that many advocate that a real blockchain is, you know, public, permissionless. But what I see is where you have something like commercialization, that it is a private blockchain, maybe with the expectance that when the blockchain system is mature and stable, maybe they will open it up. But I would really like to see more blockchain startups in Berlin trying to focus on commercialization, even if it's not in the main focus. When you see a mission to make the world a better place. But you know, I'm coming from the Ministry of Economic Affairs, and of course I have a view on not only innovation but also commercialization of competitiveness. And this is something I'm really worried about.
Okay, thank you. Maybe as a final statement, for Christmas, you wish more commercialization. Andreas Dittrich and Matti, Grosse, what do you wish for Christmas to accelerate digitization and blockchain adoption?
Should I start?
You have your wish list ready, Andreas?
Well, I just hope we are able to get through the second wave of the corona pandemic. There will be measures beginning on Monday for the next month, and I know this is going to be tough. So this is my very personal opinion, not blockchain related, which I'm obviously most thinking about. My wish list, though, is, and I think we touched that topic already, but, that we learned to collaborate better in digital form. When it's not perfect, look at this panel, it's not perfect, but it works. We're able to exchange ideas and so on. Let's continue. We won't end on Christmas. And, yeah, I think that's something good that came from this year, and we can be happy on Christmas if we look back at that.
Thank you. So
Andreas raised the most important point, of course, regarding society. Regarding blockchain, I would really hope that we also use this kind of organizational issue that blockchain has. So this kind of decentralized actors organization that are kind of, running the blockchain also in the public sector context, that we use this kind of, let's say, cooperation and knowledge transfer by design that actually this kind of blockchain technologies includes, that we use that also for other processes of cooperation, interconnectedness and knowledge transfer among horizontal and vertical public administration levels. So this would be like a kind of, follow-up advantage of implementing blockchain technologies, is that we are actually forced to cooperate more deeply, but also to develop solutions together and run the infrastructure together.
Yeah, of course. So we are at the end of the panel discussion, because there will be a final closing statement by Ricardo Garcia and my colleague Amira Gutmann-Trieb. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. It was a very interesting panel.
Thank you.
And as Andreas already said, stay healthy. That's the most important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if this microphone is on. Hello, hello. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sasha. Sorry, it's not Ricardo, it's me here on stage, but no problem. Yeah, so I think I have a whole list of people to thank, right? You're the first one. Thank you so much for the excellent moderation. Thank you also for bringing up the topic of privacy, which is really close to my heart, especially if it's about privacy, GDPR compliance, blockchain. That's what I do, what I deal with a lot. So I'm really happy that we had some expert opinions on that. Of course, also thank you so much to the speakers today. Matti, Grosse, Andreas, Dittrich, Andreas Hartl there on the camera. Thank you so much. And also, we had an excellent week of events. We had, I named it in the beginning already. This is the fifth event of the series of the Blockchain in Use conference, and we had amazing sessions every day. We had amazing moderators, amazing speakers, and I'm really, really glad that despite these circumstances, we're still able to close this off in person, face to face. Here at the Factory Berlin at the cinema. And I also understood, which is a little bit sad to hear, that this room will after this session be converted to a working space for the next month or so. So no events for the time being. But even though that's sad, I'm glad that we managed to be here and that we were so well hosted. So continuing to the people that I need to thank, and I'm sorry I have a list for that. I tend to forget people, and that's not a great habit. Right. So I think it's worth to mention Factory Berlin again. Charlotte, Roman, Anouk, thank you so much for your support here. Then of course my team, and I need a list for that, right? Then of course my team, the people working with me, working so hard to make this possible. We've been sweating quite a bit in order to make this happen. We had a ton of registrations, ton of attendees this week. So very happy that worked out so well. Last but not least, Berlin partner für Wirtschaft und Technologie, or for business and technology. Both Sasha, you already met, but the other person I'd like to call on stage is Amira Gutmann-Trieb, who's been absolutely elemental in organizing this amazing event with us. Thank you so much, Amira, and perhaps a little applause for everyone, and especially for Amira.
Thank you so much. I'm so touched, and I want to return the compliment. It was extraordinary with Corona happening that we were able to push this out of the ground. We from Berlin Partner and the cluster ICT, Media and Creative Industries support the blockchain ecosystem, and a healthy ecosystem requires innovative leaders, excellent research all the way to a lively startup. It requires courage, as we heard. And when you have a growing community, this attracts talent from all over the world to Berlin, to the city where blockchain is at home. And I want to thank especially you, Silvan, and Ricardo and Birdchain for keeping this community alive and joining forces to make this conference happen. It was amazing, 5 days. 5 verticals, we made it.
Absolutely, yes, we did. Thanks everyone for attending. Thanks everyone at home or wherever you are on the live stream, and everyone here in the room for being there, and everyone who attended throughout the week. And yeah. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.